happened to people earlier. Okay. Good evening. Good evening, everyone. Okay.
Hi all, welcome to you early birds. We'll be just a couple of minutes before we get started.
Yes.
I can see who's here. Hi Donna, hi Katie. Hi Joe. All right, we're just about to get started. It's almost just coming up to 7, so we all ready? Ready, Sam?
Ready.
I
We
can't
can't.
see anyone, but I can't see or hear anybody. So here's all the
Can you hear
people.
me now?
Yeah,
Yes, we
yeah.
can hear you.
Cool, cool.
Kia
Hiya.
ora.
Nice to
Hi.
see or
Hi.
hear you. Hello. All right. Well, it's 7 o'clock, so might as well get started. And thanks everybody for your time. Always great to see you on these calls. I'm just going to share screen and get going with the slideshow. So today we're talking about preparing children for school. So this is, I know we have parents and educators on these calls. This short presentation is designed to be a practical guide. So we are linking what we're talking about to TFARICI and the outcomes. So we're looking at what the New Zealand national curriculum expects children to know and understand before they start school, and also sharing some of our wisdom and insights. And we do have a couple of one of our visiting teachers on the call. So Donna, always feel free to support if there's anything that comes up for you.
Sure.
So we have to start always by looking at our emotions. Starting anything new for any of us can be a very stressful time. And also being able to manage our emotions is critical, particularly for children starting school. It's critical to their success in developing relationships. So where I like to start with the emotional aspect, because after all, we are humans. So I'd start by saying the more we can teach our children to self-regulate, the better prepared they are for school. And when we mean self-regulate, what we're talking about is being able to manage their emotions. Self-regulation is the foundation for everything in developing relationships and being able to manage ourselves. And most parents, if not all, one of their biggest concerns when children start school is, will they make friends? And will they feel safe? And will they know what to do? So self-regulation is the key to developing positive relationships. So if we can support our children to be able to regulate their emotions, calm their body if they're feeling stressed, then not only will they learn better, but also they'll be able to cope better socially with other children. When children feel physically safe and emotionally settled, their brains are ready to learn, play, and connect with others. We all know when we're in stress, the first thing to shut down is our thinking brain. So stress limits learning. So self-regulation, like I say, is good for building relationships, but also for learning as well. So, and a key to support that is identify feelings and give children strategies to cope with them. So we've talked before about Daniel Pink's work, you know, that whole name the emotion to tame the emotion. So the more you can help children to understand the emotions by naming them first. So by naming the emotion, you're engaging the thinking brain, and then that helps them to get out of the dysregulation, but also builds the social literacy to be able to help them understand relationships in the future, emotions in the future. So doing that builds emotional literacy over time, which supports self-regulation. So being able to say, I can see, it seems to me you're feeling frustrated, or I can see you're angry, or are you upset, etc., etc. You're giving them the literacy, the words to be able to express how they feel. And in order to support children to self-regulate, adults need to co-regulate. So raising our voice and getting frustrated with children when they're upset, angry, or demonstrating big emotions only feeds the negative emotion. So if we can remain calm and regulate our own emotions, it supports children to regulate theirs. So you're lending your calm, as they say, to a stressed child. And if we keep modeling that, then children eventually are able to self-regulate. And this is one of the greatest gifts you can give them when starting school. And my little clicker wasn't working, sorry. So before we start, let's look at Te Whairiki strands and look at what the New Zealand curriculum says is school readiness. So we start with well-being. So helping children to develop physical and emotional safety, security, self-care skills, and resilience, where they learn to trust adults in the environment and manage their own bodies. And also that ability to self-regulate helps them bounce back after challenges. Building a strong sense of belonging. Children build cultural identity. If we build cultural identity, children have a stronger sense of belonging. So we'll talk about how you can build that and ensure the school have all the information they need to support your child in knowing who they are and they have a place. And also looking at contribution. That's the social skills side of things, learning to play with others, learning to play in groups, understanding that they need to take turns, being able to ask for help. It's all of those pro-social skills that we need to support them to build. And part of the social skills is, of course, the communication, the rich oral language, recognizing symbols and print, sharing stories, expressing ideas clearly, and to begin exploring the written word with curiosity and joy. So our children don't need to be able to read and write before they start school. It's often a concern of parents, and they think it's really important that they can read and write. They don't need to, but they do need to understand that symbols and you know, the symbols have meaning. They need to be able to enjoy the printed word, so through reading stories, reading books, etc. But they don't need to be able to read. If they can recognize their name, that's great, but it's not a requirement. Excuse me. And also linking to exploration, children being curious, being able to engage in problem solving and explore mathematical and scientific concepts through play. So you'll provide these opportunities already in your home-based setting or at home. So we can talk about what that looks like. And in allowing children to learn through play, and to explore their environment, then they're developing working theories around how things work, how the world works, which is an important school readiness skill. So if we look at well-being and self-help skills, it's practical tasks like being able to manage their bags, being able to put their belongings away independently, being able to manage a lunchbox. So if we go with a lunchbox full of snacks and lunch, children need to be able to manage that throughout the day, because the last thing you want is them eating their lunch at break time and then they've got nothing to eat for the rest of the day. Also, being able to independently toilet themselves. Now, if your child needs help toileting, it's really important that you let the school know in advance. And also know that if your child has not yet developed these independent skills, then they don't need to start school at 5 in New Zealand. They can actually start school at 6, and you can delay their intake until they're ready. And there's a huge value in doing that. If children are not sufficiently independent, it can knock their confidence. So speak to your educator or early childhood teacher, and they can offer you advice and support with that if needed. So remember that everything your child learns to do independently is developing skills. So that is learning. You know, it's learning to put our shoes on by ourselves, learning to tie laces, learning to manage our own belongings is a really important part of being ready for school. And also to be able to manage ourselves emotionally. Children will need support in school. They will need to be able to ask the teacher for help occasionally. So support your child in developing that language. It can be too easy sometimes for us to jump in when we see they need help. So maybe just stand back and let them ask and get them used to asking for support. So a good thing you can be doing now is creating predictable routines. Now, some children find it really supportive if they have visual cues. So using a picture schedule or simple charts just to show the flow of the day. And if you can prepare that on the build up to school or transitioning to a new environment, it's really useful to find out the times of key routines, because you can prepare their bodies to get used to that rhythm. So if at school their break time is 10 a.m., then maybe start having snacks at home in the home-based setting at the same time. And if school has lunch at 12:30, again, match those routines and rhythms with the school if you can, because that supports the child's body to get used to those different meal times. And also, because if children are hungry, they're not learning, but also we don't want them to be hungry or thirsty and, you know, feel uncertain about what's going to happen next. So align the rhythm of your routine with the school as much as you can, and maybe have visual clues of make a game out of cards where you can say what comes first, and you might have a picture of a snack, a picture of lunch, or, you know, your regular nap times or wherever it may be, and get the children to order it, sequence it in the order of that rhythm or routine. That can really support. Visit the school and grounds. So walk around the school. Many schools allow you to use their playgrounds after hours or weekends. So going during the holidays or after hours to just play outside is a good way, or walk around the school. And of course, there's the transition visits as well. Really make sure you make the most of them transition visits. If the school has a transition booklet with images of the coat pegs, the toilets, where we put our lunch boxes, etc., then fantastic. Access one of them and read it to your child on the lead up to school. But if they don't have that, then when you do your first transition visit, take those photographs yourself and make it into a little booklet that they can pick up and have a look at, or you can read to them. And that helps to build that feeling of safety and security, because it will be familiar. even before they start school. Okay, so I've talked a little bit about social competence, but I think I think it's worth just a little bit of focus here, because again, one of the biggest worries is, will my child make friends? So some of these activities will really help to develop that the pro-social skills. So things like board games teach us how to take turns. Same with card games. They teach us how to take turns in a one-on-one or small group activity. So it also develops this sense of, it teaches patience. So they might be really keen to jump in, and they might have a sense of, they might be feeling really exuberant. So controlling their impulses is a really important skill in social skills, because then you're less likely to have children get to the point where they're really frustrated and they lose control, or basically get too excited and physically grab things off other children. All those things we see happen all the time in early childhood. Playing these kinds of take your time and take your turn kind of games really support then their ability to regulate. And if you start one-on-one and then gradually build to larger groups, then children get used to waiting a bit longer. Then children looking after older children, supporting younger children, the Tuakanatena relationships really supports their developing confidence. It also helps them to be more empathetic, because when they start school, they'll be meeting a whole group of children they don't know, who might behave differently. Some could speak differently, they might look different. So building their empathy and their leadership skills will really help them in the social setting with new children. And problem solving, of course. Teach phrases like, can I have a turn after you? Or let's try it together. These support that when conflicts will arise in the school playground, of course they will. It's perfectly natural. We can't avoid that. And in the school setting, maybe not just outside, but if we can give our children small sentences and words that can support them to express themselves, then you're more likely to build a positive reciprocal relationship with other children. It's not, and this, I love this, social competence, it isn't about being quiet or compliant. That's the last thing we want to create. We want children to be able to navigate relationships and contribute meaningfully and work collaboratively. So we don't want compliant children. We want children who feel empowered and that they have a voice and they can make a meaningful contribution. And this is a skill that is obviously valuable for the whole of life, not just starting school. So looking at early literacy, I mean, this isn't about literacy, this whole webinar, but I think it's still worth talking about it with regards to putting your mind at rest. Sorry, putting your minds at rest if you think your child has to be able to read and write. They absolutely don't. And in fact, there's much research out there that says if you force a child to learn to read and write before they're ready, then you're actually delaying their development, and they might struggle later on in school. So it might appear they're doing well because they're learning to read early, but because their brain is still developing, very often they miss really important steps in learning to read and building their vocabulary. So don't rush it. Remember that this is an emerging skill. It's not something they have to learn and learn quickly. As children are in the first year of school, the first 2 or 3 years, they're actually developing their abilities to read simple, then increasing complex text. It's not just about reading the words in print, it's about being able to comprehend what they're reading. So it's a journey. It's not something we should risk and rush into. Just allow your child to learn at their own pace. But if your child starts school enjoying books and understanding that words and symbols have meaning, then you're giving them the very best start, and they'll very quickly learn to read after they start school. And it's not bad if they can read the odd words, and if they are starting to read simple sentences, just don't push it. Allow the child to learn at their own pace. Don't feel that pressure. And very often, parents can be very, very competitive, and and well-meaning family members can be saying things like, "Oh, can they not read? Well, they're starting school soon." Just try not to get stressed about it, and try not to buy into that whole mindset, because children are really smart. They learn really quickly. And if you allow them to learn at their own pace, then they develop a much deeper understanding of what they're learning. So it's not a race. Again, not developing the skills of reading and writing. If children know to turn pages and point to words, and they can pick up a book and enjoy it, then that's a great start. I think one key thing that often gets missed is it's more important to be able to hold a pencil correctly than it is to be able to write words. So if your child enjoys drawing and writing and mark making, then give them as much opportunity as you possibly can to do that. But teach them how to hold the pencil correctly. If your child is holding a pencil with their fist or in an awkward position, it makes learning to write and handwriting so much more difficult later on. So in the early years before school, the most important thing is holding the pencil properly, not worrying about how many words they can write and whether they know their alphabet, etc. Now, if your child's struggling with holding the pencil correctly, then you can get them triangular pencil grips. That can really help them to get their little fingers in the right position for the pencils, or using the chubby pencils and then gradually allowing them to use the thinner ones as they get used to them. But you can support the development of those fine motor skills by playing with tongs, tweezers, anything that requires the manipulation of small objects. So it's just lots and lots of practice.
And also Play-Doh. Play-Doh and all that messy play they do in early childhood centres or educators' places. They're really good for the muscle development to support pencil holding.
It really is. And if you put small objects like the little matchsticks into the
Posting.
Play-Doh, yeah, things like that, just to make it that much more interesting, but giving them smaller things to manipulate as well. That's right. Brilliant. Thanks, Donna.
100%. And it's sorry, and it's just always to make it fun experience and not to stress them out and to like force that pen holding, I think. Because then
That's
they
right.
they get a bit like, a regression would happen. So it's just making it a fun experience too when they're
Yeah,
learning.
that's right. And it's again, it's not about the formal teaching. Please don't be making your children sit down and read words and write words, as Donna says, making it fun, just having it there. Children love exploring, and they are naturally drawn to interesting activities and experiences. So the more you can change things up and make it novel, then the more likely you are to get them engaged. Yeah. So also learning through loose parts and construction. So we want to develop their scientific thinking and their early maths. Now, every centre and most children and home-based settings, most children have blocks available to them, or Duplo or Lego. They are such fantastic resources for developing mathematical concepts. So this is another opportunity too to grow your child's vocabulary. So you can be talking about how tall, how small, how many blocks, positional language like under or over or next to, etc. All these opportunities give the child the opportunity to actually understand what two means. So if you have one block and then you have two blocks, then they understand that difficult concept. They can manipulate the objects, and it makes it easier for them to retain that information, because not only are you giving them the words, but they're actually able to manipulate the object to understand it. And play gives the opportunity to learn that spatial reasoning and also problem solving, building the blocks and it not working, and then them trying again and again, then that builds their resilience. It builds their ability to actually work through a problem and solve it for themselves, and then they have a sense of, I can do this. Whereas if we go in and say, oh, that's not right, let me do it for you, then we're basically teaching them that they can't do things for themselves. So as your preschool child is getting older, then allow them to struggle sometimes, allow them to persist through difficulty, because they learn more from that process than us teaching them how to build the tower high. So everyday activities like cooking and measuring, counting, sorting, all of these experiences, even as it says here, helping with the laundry. So categorizing by clothing items or by color, or sorting shelves and leaves. They're all developing their ability to see patterns and to develop that mathematical thinking. And it's much better if we can do this through real hands-on experiences, because the more part of the brain we can engage in learning, the more likely children are to retain that information. And there's an example here of building ramps, building sandcastles. Mixing colours is another one for developing scientific thinking as well. And when we do these things, these activities, the more we can actually get children to hypothesize and think about what might happen next, then we're supporting them in developing that critical thinking and their ability to think scientifically, yeah, and to work things out for themselves. So, and this links to, the different kinds of cognition. So working memory is the ability to remember the rules, remember the boundaries, being able to recall what happened in a story, being able to hold, say, 3 simple instructions in their mind and be able to go and follow through with those instructions. So supporting children to develop this working memory really helps with school, because obviously in a classroom situation, they might be given multiple instructions by the teacher, and that helps them to actually follow through with those instructions. And the cognitive flexibility, that's about being flexible in our thinking. So sometimes the plans might change, and we need our children to be more flexible in that those things happening. For example, we talked about the blocks before. So having children be able to work things out for themselves and solve their own problems increases their cognitive flexibility, because they might have an idea about what they want to build and they might try it out a few times and it doesn't work. If they can persist through difficulty and be flexible in their thinking, then they're more likely to find a solution to that and find an alternative plan that they can follow through with. And the reason we want to develop the cognitive flexibility for school is remember they're going to school with a whole different group of children they've never met before, and some of them may be inflexible. So it really helps with the social skills as well. And role play and dramatic play are perfect ways for children to develop this cognitive flexibility. And we see that all the time in early childhood settings and in our home-based settings when they're working with, particularly when you've got older children working with younger children, if they can be flexible and resilient at the same time, then that social interaction can be a really rich experience for the children. And also the ability to control our impulses, to be able to take turns is really, really important, because learning is a very emotional journey. So in a classroom situation where our children are learning something new, it can create an element of stress or frustration for them, and it can be easy for us to just maybe lash out or disengage because we're feeling a little bit frustrated with our at not achieving a certain goal or not being able to follow through on what they're expecting. Then if we can teach that in the ability to control their impulses, then we're setting them up for success in school hugely. And particularly if they're working with other children who may not be that reasonable. So we can teach this through games like Simple Simon Says, Red Light, Green Light, and Dance Freeze. I think Simple Simon Says is a very common game. Dance Freeze is the one where we might play music and they have to stop and freeze like a statue until the music comes back on again. So these all teach impulse control. And treasure maps is a good one for working memory. So with treasure maps, for children to be able to apply what the map says to the real world. For example, you might have a map of the room and you might have a picture, a drawing of the settee and a table. And there might be lines to the treasure that they have to work out for themselves. It helps to develop the cognition to be able to reference what's on the printed paper to what's in real life, which is a really good skill for learning to read and apply that to different concepts. So remember, we talked about extending vocabulary quite a lot. It's if a child can remember three short instructions and follow through without adults' help, then they're at a pretty good position for when they're starting school. So as we're building our children's vocabulary, I think we should do it naturally, right? So as children are playing, so there's an example here on how to extend vocabulary where the child says big truck, and you might say, yes, that's a huge truck, or that's an enormous truck. So you're not actually correcting the child, you're just giving them more words to express themselves. Or paraphrasing. So if a child says, me go to park, meaning I've gone to the park, then you might say, yes, you did go to the park. And it becomes a natural way of helping the child to put the right words into that sentence without them feeling they've made a mistake and without them feeling like they're being criticized. And if you do that in a very with a warm tone, in a conversational tone, then the child will be totally unaware that you're introducing this language, but they will pick it up. And also when we're talking to children, if we can wonder aloud, so when we talk about that, we're saying, I wonder what will happen if, and then wait. because this helps the child gives the child time to think about what might happen. So they say silence is where thinking happens. Remember, children's brains, their thinking is slower than ours. So just if you need to in your mind, count to 10, just to give them time to think about it and to respond. Try not to rush in and save them and tell them what they should be doing. Allow them as much as you can to work it out for themselves. So there are some practical routines you can carry out with the children, and your daily life will have these routines anyway. Like I said before, if you can, during that transition to school time, the more you can align your routines with the routines of the school with regards to timings, the better, because that helps with them regulating their bodies and their need for food, water, and rest, etc. The same with sleep times. If you know that when your child starts school, you'll have to be out of the door by 8:30, then you want to make sure, and you need to get up earlier than on the average day. The sooner you can get into that rhythm, the better it is for them and their natural bodily rhythms. Managing the lunchbox is something that's worth spending some time on. So in the home-based setting, or if your child goes to a childcare centre, it's worth speaking to your educators about what happens, how they can support in helping your child manage their lunchbox, because it's at home that most children do not have to make their food last for morning tea and lunch. They normally have meals available to them and snacks available to them throughout the day. And it's very easy to look at all this yummy food in the lunchbox and, eat it all at once or try a little bit of everything. And then it might spoil or not go so nice for the next meal or snack. So a good way to prepare children is to actually practice using a lunchbox. So for the 6 weeks building up to starting school, be maybe having a lunchbox, prepare it with your child the day before, give them as much choice as you can around what they have in their lunchbox, but whilst teaching them about, healthy eating and how to manage their meals throughout the day so they're not hungry. So remember, speak to the school about what rules they might have around food. Like most will say, nothing can be heated, of course, so it's going to be, and a lot will have nut free. So if your child is a fussy eater or has food preferences, the weeks or months even before they start school is a good time to get them used to those different food types and flavors. Practicing opening their own bags if they have snacks that are in like crisp bag type bags, or if there's yogurt and they have the little bottles with the peel off lid. All of these skills are really important skills to be able to manage themselves when they're at school. The last thing you want is your child to have this yummy treat in their lunchbox and them not be able to open it. And teachers are busy, so it'd be awful if, for some reason the teacher didn't get to them on time and they had to do without. So lots and lots of practice with opening these bottles and packets of food. And also dressing themselves. Most children can manage to toilet independently, but remember, sometimes they may need to change clothing for whatever reason. So if they can manage their own clothes and put on their own shoes, then all the better. And the more we practice, the more children grow their confidence over time, but also before they start school. And tying laces is quite challenging. So, a handy tip is to have Velcro shoes for when they start school, and it helps them to be independent. So again, I always say it, teachers don't expect children to arrive knowing how to read and write, and many teachers think it's better if they can't. Being able to recognize their name is a really good thing. And again, knowing words and symbols have meaning, but they don't need to be able to read and write. So what they do want is your child to arrive at school curious, confident, and being capable of basic social and self-care skills. They're the most important things. Yeah. So if your child is curious, confident, and can ask for help, brilliant, big tick. They'll be ready to start school and be able to look after themselves, and they'll be able to advocate for themselves as well. If they can follow the simple routines like lining up, sitting down for math time, moving between activities, so being able to manage their impulses and manage themselves, manage the disappointment if they're fully engaged on one thing and they have to move to the next. All of these support children in being ready. Being able to stop and listen or responding positively to tidy up time helps them adapt more easily. In school, it's not as flexible as being at home or in a home-based environment or a childcare centre. So they tend to be a lot more strict and rigid around times. So the more flexible your child is in their thinking and the more adaptable they are, the more they can cope with that situation. And of course, being able to play with others and stick to their tasks, to negotiate, to share, to engage. So being able to follow through on 3 simple instructions is a really good skill. So you can practice that easily at home. And of course, the lunchbox and independent toileting. Now, as I said before, if your child does need a lot of support with dressing themselves and toileting independently, they're good reasons for you to delay your child starting school, because it's much kinder for a child to be in their home-based setting or even at home while they develop them skills than it is to put them in the school environment where they might be feeling like they're asking for help all the time. So going in curious and confident and being able to toilet independently is really, really important. So don't rush them if they're not at that stage yet. Don't rush them into school. It's much kinder to keep them in the home-based environment or childcare centre until they are ready. So, quick checklist. You'll get these slides so you can go through them at your own pace. But again, we'll just quickly run through. Have we built a sense of belonging? Do they feel connected to their culture and their community? Do they have that sense of I matter here, I'm important? Have we talked positively about school and the fact that it's a really exciting next step? When we look at your child's sense of belonging at school, very often your home-based educator or your childcare centre will have learning stories or they'll have some work that your child's produced, or they'll have information about their readiness for school. Please ask for it. Help your child by giving as much information to the teacher about your child's culture, identity, about their preferences, and about where they are strong and where they're struggling, because that supports the teacher in making sure their needs are met at the beginning. Most schools are really good about developing that sense of belonging and will have things like photographs of the children, and little words of and artifacts from their own culture around the classroom environment. But if you're not sure, then do speak to the school and use your transition visits to find that out. Don't be fearful. Ask as many questions as you like. It's really, really important that you feel confident for your child to feel confident. Building the familiarity of the school, we've talked about that, the transition visit, photographs of key places, and helping your child to manage themselves. And then also having that transition story, like I said, and the focus on your child's interests and their abilities. If your child's struggling in any area, let your teachers know before your child starts school so that they can help them in the best way possible. So sorry, a lot of content there. We will share the slides, but I thought we'd come to any questions before we finish. I can't see the chats, so when I'm presenting, so apologies if anybody's put any questions in there. Anything to add, Donna, if you're still on the call?
I am on the call. I just thought I would share. There's a really good book that's really good for tamariki that are transitioning to kura, and it's called The
Yeah.
Great Hiwi School Day by Donovan Bixley.
Oh,
And it's
nice.
based around like it's got Te Reo Māori in it, so it's based around routine, like obviously starting from leaving, from home to walking to school, and it's all done through via like conversations. So anyway, check it
Oh, that's
out
cool.
on mighty8.co.nz. It's only $19. I'm going to order one for my educators to use.
Oh, brilliant.
Yeah, it's
Order a
only
few,
$19 at the moment.
Donna, order a few to go in the library, in the book library.
Okay.
Yeah,
And also like when your tamariki do start school, it's always good to have like a little or ask the teacher if you can take photos of the classroom they're going to be going into or something like that so they can get familiar with the new surroundings. I know they'll be visiting and everything like that. If they go on school visits with their ECE centres, ask for the photos from there that you can share for like when they're at bed or if you're, sharing stories of their day. It's really good to get, feel the excitement with them. And also when they do start, if they do have toileting, they're not too confident with toileting or, you're scared that they're going to get have a little accident, it's always good to have like a little accident pack, which is just like a Ziploc bag with, some underwear, some shorts. It's little simple things like a little thing of wet wipes just in case. So,
good idea. Yes, yes.
yeah, so that's always like just in the bottom of their bag. So, it's discreet and it's not gonna, stress them out. I've had a few friends that have done that and it's really helped with their self-esteem and confidence around toileting. So, yeah.
And don't stress as parents, right? If your child starts school and if you feel like they've regressed, don't
Mm,
worry, that's normal. You can have a child who is really independently toileting before they start school, and then they have an accident or two in school. Again, that's quite normal, but talk to them
mm,
about did they feel they could ask the teacher or,
mm.
about how it happened, because sometimes it's just they've forgotten where the bathroom is and they leave it too late, or
Yeah.
they didn't feel they could ask the teacher because something was happening and they left it too late. So never stress, but never stress them about it either. Children are they already feel bad if they've had an accident. So the last thing we want to do is make them feel worse. Just offer reassurance and tell them what they could do next time. But it's quite common, isn't it, Donna, for children to regress a little bit when they start
Yeah.
school?
Yeah, it is. And there's that's just such a new environment and a new thing for them. It's excitement and then it's, they're yeah, as you say, they don't know the where certain toilets are or but the
Yeah,
new entrance teachers are usually very good at supporting children who've transitioned and they understand that they need a little bit more support and
yeah,
yeah, so you'll always get support from the new entrance teachers.
yeah.
100%. Yeah.
Yeah, they're good. They're really
And
good.
that's why that toileting, independent toileting is very important, and just making sure that
Yeah,
they can communicate, their needs, definitely.
yeah,
Just be able
for
to be
sure.
comfortable to do that is very important.
It is. It is for sure. All right. Thanks, Donna.
You're welcome. Oh no, I love, I can't wait to get the notes, and then I can share with my educators who couldn't make it tonight. So it'd be great.
Hey Sam, when you send out the slides, will you send out that recommended book that Donna talked about, please?
Sure,
But
sure.
just make sure and put it on the bottom slide or something as recommended reading.
Okay,
So,
will do.
what we can do, Donna, when you get the slides, I'm happy for you to share them with your educators, and obviously the recording will be there for them as well if they
Oh,
want
okay,
it.
perfect. Yeah.
But I tried to do the slides so that the slides themselves would be helpful rather than them having to watch the recording. But either works or both. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's perfect. Thank you. No, oh yeah, I'm gonna get on to ordering those books. Might order
Brilliant.
3.
Yeah,
Yeah. So
cool.
cool.
Thanks
Um, bef
heaps. Oh,
Before we end up our webinar, I just want to launch this question. Which webinar topics would you like us to cover next year? Just let us know in the chat real quick before we end up our webinar.
Mm.
brilliant. Yes, yes. So what we found in the past is behavior tends to be a big deal for some people, or how to develop mathematical skills, how to teach children to learn to read, or pre-reading skills. Um, what other topics can you think of, Donna? That might be
Is it to support school transition or just overall?
anything.
Anything?
Yeah.
Mm, let me have a think.
Tantrums has been another one.
Tantrums.
Routines could be a good one. If your child is, some children really don't like getting dressed or don't like having their nappies changed, or things like that could be,
Yeah,
how to
yeah,
with
like
rituals.
routines, and like their daily routines sort of thing.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Like their cares, how to handle emotional emotions sort of thing around
Care routines
care
and
skills.
yeah,
So it'll be like emotional coaching.
yeah. Self-regulation. Yeah. Okay. Well, it's December, so I want to wish everybody a very Merry Christmas. Hope you have some time off over the holiday period, and wishing you all the best for the new year ahead. So if you do have ideas for other webinars, then do let us know. You can flick us an email even, and we'll consider that when we're planning the year.
Mm. Loose parts will be a cool one. Only
Loose
because my
parts.
passion around learning through loose parts is, I love that.
Yeah, me too. Donna, you can do it with me.
Or
We can.
natural, like the natural environment and how we learn. Yeah.
Perfect. Let's do that. Let's do that for January.
Oh,
Great
okay.
way to start the year. Yeah. So we'll do that together as a discussion. So we'll both bring ideas and we'll do it as a discussion. Yeah. It's much more fun for me
Sure.
that
Yeah. I
way.
can also like take photos of activities set around, the natural environment and loose parts play.
Perfect.
That
Do
would
that.
be really awesome.
Yeah. Thanks, Donna. Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Joe.
Thank you,
See
everyone.
you next time. Thanks, Sam.
Thank you. Have a great evening, everyone.
Bye.
Very mihi. Have a lovely Christmas.
Merry
You too.
Christmas, Dana. Merry Christmas, everyone.